Now, Formula One is a sport that dazzles the world, not only on the track, but also what goes on behind the scenes. What goes on out there, that's incredible. But when you understand what goes on to getting them here, that's just as fascinating. So join me and discover how logistics and Formula One meet in perfect harmony.
The 2025 Formula One calendar is so massive with its 24 races that it doesn't just go from A to B. It stretches from A, like Abu Dhabi, to Z, like Zandvoort. The pinnacle of motorsport travels across 5 continents and 21 countries. Collectively, the circuits span a total race distance of around 7,300 kilometres. But logistically, it's far more. Roughly 150,000 kilometres are covered over the season. Formula One's official logistics partner DHL transports up to 1,200 tonnes, that's 1,200,000 kilograms, by the way, of F1 freight per race. That's the weight of 200 African elephant bulls, each weighing about 6,000 kilograms, or approximately 1,500 Formula One cars at a minimum of 800 kilograms each, or the equivalent of 22,641 Yuki Tsunodas, the lightest driver on the grid, standing 1.6 meters tall and weighing just 53 kilograms. So, how is all of this transported? Multimodally, by land, sea, and air.
You might be wondering why everyone can't simply ship everything around the world using only aeroplanes. You see, the thing about that is that it can get incredibly expensive to transport across 24 race weekends. It's also, as you can tell, limited in size, so you would have to make multiple trips, even more expensive. And considering the environmental aspect, that just doesn't match up. So okay then, don't use planes then. Well, about that, air freight may be pricey, but it is vital in getting F1 off the line. Crucial elements such as the cars themselves, spare parts, engines, even tyre blankets need to be at the track in time to be ready for Friday practice. Or else you'll be, well, here where I am, stuck in the pits. And seriously? Tyre blankets? Yes, very serious. One set alone costs 60,000 euros, as well as the control units needed to regulate them. And the tyres that it cuddles oh so dear. You can't just rely on one set though, no sharing here. Each race weekend requires between 30 and 40 of them. Total cost, $500,000. Now that's some hot property. And in the pursuit of maximum efficiency and maximum capacity, DHL's been calling upon the trusty Boeing 777s for their fuel-efficient models, which produce 18% less CO2 emissions and far more efficiently stored. Now that's a win-win. Now we've been in the air for a moment, so let's bring things down to the high seas, because sea freight is also part of the Formula One circus. There isn't just one set of everything that gets sailed off to every single race overseas. Each team needs 7 identical copies of everything they would need that doesn't require to be at the track immediately. And also, whilst one shipment is being used, there are several others out there just winding their ways to other circuits later in the year. Well, what kind of stuff? Now that's the equipment and tools needed for the garage, the tyres, and even going as far as the kitchen equipment. Everything that is either heavy or bulky, or not too expensive because, well, you need 7 of them, is usually sent by sea. And that last mile has to be completed by truck from the airport or the seaport to the racetrack. And who could forget the importance of the good old truck? Now that last mile has to be undertaken with one of those. And while some straights at modern F1 circuits have been getting a bit long, you are going to still struggle getting a Boeing 777 down one of those. So yeah, best let trucks do that. And for the European races especially, trucks are top. Everything is undertaken with them. It gives the planes and ships a very big break. So, does the environmental push stop there? Not so. DHL started using biofuel trucks in 2023. Now, 51 of them are in use around the world. And these biofuel trucks ensure 83% of savings of CO2 emissions on average. Yes, there's still room for improvement, but mobility using full electric trucks is not ready for prime time. Same with only using air freight. But DHL has already secured relatively large stocks of SAF sustainable aviation fuel ready to use, so that Formula One teams can count on their most trusted international deliverer. So as you can probably tell, this is all quite complicated to handle, 10 teams and everything else. But DHL, they've got over 40 years of experience working with Formula One and are always looking for innovative technical solutions, but also for you, to ensure that you benefit as well. Now you'll find a link in the video description for more information. But hey, do come back for more, I'm not done with you. Now, getting fuel to racetracks, that is no small feat either. You need special fuel for these special cars, and drivers can't just hop in and go. They have to have extra training and certification because this stuff can be pretty hazardous to be around and work with, even if the drivers aren't the ones adding an extra splash for qualifying. Even moving it around Europe means having to deal with import and export duties. And at Zandvoort, for example, things can get quite quirky. Oil barrels aren't even allowed to touch the ground because of the strict environmental rules there. So they have to have a special bunker for even storing them. And have you ever wondered what it takes to send batteries soaring around the world without causing chaos at over 35,000 feet or so? Well, believe it or not, shipping these tiny powerhouses is trickier than you might think. Extra care is required. Like with everything else we've discussed thus far, there is more to battery transport than meets the eye. Batteries transported in the cargo hold, for example, of an aircraft pose logistical and safety challenges, and transporting Formula 1 batteries globally is subject to even stricter requirements, particularly as they are used items. Now, regulations governing the transport of such batteries are also very strict and are frequently updated alongside technological advancements, requiring DHL staff to remain up to date, which has resulted in the company patenting their own special and unique way for transporting said kit safely, securely, and timely. They're in charge. As you may be aware, next year an 11th team will be on the grid, but you could say that one has existed in F1 for quite some time. The DHL motorhome is taken along for the ride to all the European races, including this one. And for 2025, the team here has got a rather fancy new pad. Why? Simple. It's a contact point for every member of staff, including guests like myself, and acts like a command center for logistics both at the track, in transit to the track, and for when it's time to ship things out again. At the overseas races, the DHL crew are located in the race control tower itself. Very important people indeed, because without them, well, we wouldn't go racing at all. Around 40 DHL colleagues are on site at every race, and one of them is Georgia, who has been on the road now with the F1 show for 7 years.
Ciao, sono Giorgia and I'm Trackside Operation Manager at DHL Motorsport. I actually work in a Trackside office in every single event in Formula 1. At Trackside, in a way, we are the face of DHL. Our main job is to be able to find a solution to issues. Whatever issues any team or stakeholder have had, we manage to solve them and we find a solution for everything to make the race happen. We are part of it. We make the race happen as well as all of the other teams and suppliers. This is an ATA carnet, which basically is a passport but for freight. In particular, this one is for one engine, so all team would have one carnet per engine to keep it flexible in case they have issues and they have to send it back to the factory to be repaired. There is almost one carnet per each part in the car. We have so many, we are surrounded by ATA carnets in our office and they give us nightmares. This job is very challenging. It takes a lot of your time, a lot of your efforts, but in the end it's rewarding, so I do love what I do.
As many folks say, teamwork makes the dream work, and you can start your dream job with DHL. You've already seen that there's a lot more to DHL than it might seem when you see the trucks on the road or in the background of TV interviews with drivers. There are a lot of jobs needed to get all of this off the ground or in the air. There is something for everyone and something that will appeal to you. Don't forget to check out the link in the video description below for more information. As you've heard up until now, logistics in Formula 1 is quite the complex topic, but F1 is working together with teams and promoters to make the calendar as logistically sensible as possible and as economical as possible. Next season, for example, Montreal is now after Miami. No European races in between, because going from Europe to Canada and then back again, that was a pretty awkward jump across the pond. But aside from that though, the calendar is not easy to fix as there are commercial interests from promoters and the climate dictates part of that too. Silverstone sometimes is a tricky track to place, even in July, as we saw to great effect not that long ago. And I've seen snow knocking around that track in December, so I doubt we're going to be going to the British Grand Prix in time for the season finale anytime soon, folks. And also, in the team's interest, it's best to have a logistically sensible calendar because those costs can be quite high. A lot of exemptions from the budget cap are in place though, like with the engines, the driver salaries and the food, but not logistics. And logistics are not cheap. especially during global events like the COVID-19 pandemic, where we could see just how expensive logistics could become. Fun fact, or no, not so fun fact. Around September 2021, suddenly things cost 10 times as much to ship around the world than 2 years previously. Crazy! Jitters around the Suez Canal, that can get very expensive too. And back in the day, just 10 or 15 years ago, teams didn't really care that much about the environment costs and costs attached in getting their tracks from track A to track B. Now they have to. And they have come up with creative ideas, like the Haas pit wall, for example. A few years ago, they cut it in half, and they saved $250,000 in the process in terms of air freight. But now they've made it full size again, as they now consider it to be sea freight. And that means that time is money and more additional monies can be saved. Now, today was all about setting things up. The deconstruction, well, that starts even before the checkered flag is flown. And whilst the teams celebrate and debrief and I go up my ladder, or today a cherry picker, to report on it, the race after the race has already started. And the whole paddock is full of forklifts and hard-working people packing everything away again. It must look like an ant colony from above, so there you have it. Now you know much more behind how F1 gets from race to race than you would have thought. I hope this has given you a better understanding of all of the hard work that goes into the whole thing, and perhaps you might be inspired to become a part of it. Now, one last time, check the link in the description to see how you can join DHL's quest for perfection.